All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go through the entire foam rolling sequence. So once you know these movements, you can get through this in about 6.5 minutes. So a lot of times it's just making sure you know the order that they're in, as well as all the movements, and then you can get through this a lot quicker. So with all of these, we're gonna go with 3 slow rolls. And remember, the slow roll, what we're doing is squeezing fluid out of the tissue. Once the pressure is off of the tissue, that fluid's gonna come back in, and it's just gonna help minimize some of that congestion that's in there. Not really a medical term. And then the other thing is going to be shearing. So remember, with shearing, we're trying to pin the skin on the roller and then actually move the skin back and forth. So we're not moving ourselves over the roller with that. We actually, kind of like an old school, I don't know if it's PC, but an Indian sunburn, where you take and spin the skin opposite directions. So that's kind of the sensation we're looking for. And the idea behind that is, to whatever degree we can, we're trying to create separation between layers of fascia so that all of these things move independently like they're supposed to, instead of getting stuck and moving as one unit. All right, we're gonna start with low back. So we're gonna go low back to upper back, start just above the waistline, arms over your chest, a little hip lift, and this is about the speed I want you to roll. Pass number 2. And one more. Now we're going to go ahead and transition onto the lat. So the big thing is, you don't want to get down around these floating ribs, and you don't want to get down around the kidney. So kind of where that meaty part of your lat ties in. Just going to roll onto your side, and then we're rolling all the way up the lat to the shoulder, get to the back side of the arm, back side of the shoulder, and back down. And one more. And repeat on the other side. All right, now we're going to go into shearing. So we're going to start just above the waistline and work our way up. So pinning the skin, kind of starting around the sacrum, and we just do the shimmy. So once I get to kind of the top of the waistband on my shorts, I'm getting a wedgie, and then finish all the way up. Just slowly work your way up, just trying to move that skin back and forth. All right, let's go to the hip. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start using left to right. Follow along with me. So we're gonna go right hip, cross your right leg over your left, turn onto that glute, and 3 slow rolls. So cover that entire glute. All right, shearing. So we're gonna follow the waistband, and again, just pulling that skin across, and then transition over to the side a little bit. So you're just following that curve going right along the waistline of your pants to the outside. All right, staying with the right leg, we're gonna go with quad. So I'm gonna start along the outside line of the quad. What I like to do is hook the foot, and as I'm rolling up the quad, increase the length of the muscle, stretch it out a little bit, and you're gonna get a better roll. All the way up around the hip. Come back down. Pass number 2, we're going to go right up the middle of the leg. And then whichever of those 2 areas was more tender for you, for me it's always the lateral aspect, I'm going to go with my 3rd pass there. All right, now we don't roll the IT band, but we are going to shear the IT band. So pressure just above the knee. And now I'm moving back and forth and work all the way up around the hip. And we're going to go belly down and the quad. So starting just above the knee, and just really get across, moving that skin back and forth all the way up to the front of the hip. All right, the professional transition. You're going to take your left knee, catch it on the outside of the edge of the roller. Simply spin the roller, and now we have it perfectly positioned perpendicular to the leg to go into the inner thigh. Just above the knee, all the way up to the groin. And one more. So since we're all at home, we can shear the inner thigh without fear of somebody watching and wondering what the hell we're doing. So from here, what I do is instead of trying to move the body, I go ahead and just move the leg. So starting up nice and high, and then I'm just going to work my way all the way down to the knee. All right, let's do all of those on the left side. So left leg crossed over right, and 3 slow rolls on the entire glute. One more. And then starting around the sacrum and just following your waistline, shearing, and just work our way to the outside, turn the body. Good. All right, quad. We're gonna come up the outside line. So hook it, and as you move up, slow roll and increase the knee flex. All the way up around iliacus. Back down. Second pass, coming up the center of the quad. All the way up around the hip. And then whichever of the two is more tender, hit that on a third one. All right, shearing. So we're gonna start with the IT band and do the shimmy. Just work it all the way up by the hip. And then the quad. All right, if you couldn't see the professional transition earlier, now right knee is going to catch the end of the foam roller, spin it. Now we're perpendicular. From the knee all the way to the groin. And then we're going to go with a third pass. All right, high in the groin, we're now going to move the leg forward and back, shearing that inside line. All the way up to the knee, and the knee may be a little more tender. You can give a little more love there. All right, hamstring. Going back to the right leg. So you can go with varying degrees of pressure here. Cross one leg over the other, lift your hips up, brace through the arms. So I'm gonna start with the inside line of the hamstring. My slow roll all the way up to the glute fold. Come back down. Now I'm gonna go straight up the center. And kind of like the quad, whichever of those two you felt more going on, that's the line I want you to hit. So right now I'm getting a little more inner. Back down the outside. So shearing, I'm just going to take, starting just above the knee, and just raking the leg across the foam roller. And that's one reason I like the rumble roller. It grips the skin better than your traditional smooth rollers. And then back up. Left leg, coming up the inside line of the hamstring. All the way to the gluteal fold, back down the center, come back up the center, and back down, whichever of those two you had more on. So in my left leg, it's a little more of the center part, so I'm gonna go one more pass there. And shearing. Just above the knee is your start point, and just rake across. All the way up to the gluteal fold. A lot of times I'll come all the way back down too. All right, calves. Back to the right leg. So I'm gonna stack, lift, and then I'm gonna turn so that I'm coming up the inside portion of my calf. Back down the center. Now I'm gonna come up the outside portion of my calf. And whichever of those two lines gave you a little more tenderness, hit that a third time. So today it's my lateral line. And then shearing, we're gonna start not at the very bottom down by the heel, but a little bit further up. So we're not trying to rake across the Achilles, so start just a smidge above it. But we do wanna get down around all that thick fibrous tissue and then work your way all the way up to the knee. All right, left leg. So we're gonna start coming up the inside line. Back down the center, come up a little more of the lateral line. And then back down, and then whichever of those two you felt more tenderness, get a third pass there. Like my right side, that lateral line's a little more tender for me. All right, shearing. Just rake that skin back and forth across. All the way up. Now for the front side, for the shin, we don't want to roll across the bone. So I'm going to start low. I'm angling a little bit to the side, so I'm just off the shin bone, and you're really targeting that big meaty muscle right there, tibialis anterior. So I'm going to roll up, back down, 2 more passes. Then when I start shearing, if you look at the top of the tibia, and then you start moving over towards the fibula, I kind of look at that as a little corner there. We're trying to start in that corner, and we're trying to simply pull the tissue off of the bone as you work your way up. So it's not the same kind of shearing back and forth, it's really just more trying to pull tissue off the bone. And then just work your way all the way up. All right, same thing on the other side. So start a little angle so we're not on the shin bone, and we're going to go all the way up to the knee. 2 more passes. And then we're catching that little corner at the top of the tibia, and start there, work your way down, pulling that tissue. So we're trying to move it away from the bone. The last thing I like to do is kind of get on the ankles and just rake back and forth a little bit. And since we're already here, we can get a little bit of plantar flexion. We always throw in a whole lot of dorsiflexion. So plantar flexion, sketch the toes, and then gently sit back. All right, so about 20 or so seconds here, but once you have that whole process down, you know the movements, you know the sequence, and you stick with 3 slow rolls and shearing, I promise you it's about a 6.5 minute sequence, and all of a sudden the I don't have enough time argument starts to go out the window.